The buzz is back. Let's talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This came out 12 years after the original, once again directed by Tobe Hooper, but this time written by a guy named KT Carson, something like that. And this one is way different from the first one. This one was not well received at the time, but has since gained a cult following, and that's why it's got this fancy Blu-ray by Shout Factory, which I recommend because it looks good, has great special features, interviews with everybody, behind the scenes stuff, deleted scenes, and death scenes that were taken out that were interesting to watch, and a feature-length documentary making of that's like an hour and 20 some minutes long. So there's all kinds of information and behind-the-scenes crap on here. So recommend picking this up if you're a fan of the movie. So what are my thoughts on it, though? I just saw this for the first time a couple years back, and I liked it. And I've seen it a couple more times since, watched a couple of these commentaries, and I still feel the same. I like it. I don't love it. I have some issues that I'll get to later on, but yeah, lick my plate, you dog dick. This movie's very quotable, and that's one of my first positives is Chop Top. He is hilarious. I think Bill Moseley just knocks it out of the park with his performance in this movie. He captures crazy in a fun way. He's not annoying or anything like Drayton is to me. He is just so funny. His dialogue is so out there, so weird. It's just outrageous.
What the shit? Hey, lick my plate, you dog dick!
He's got this unique gimmick where he's always lighting the end of a hanger and then scraping his plate and then eating like burnt flesh off of his scalp. It's disgusting. This movie gets really gross. Speaking of gross, the gore effects in the movie are done by Tom Savini and his crew, and this is some of the best Tom Savini effects. The first one was more in your mind. What you don't see is scarier. You don't see the gore shots in the first one, but in this one, we get the gore shots because it's the 80s, and that's when gore got more popular in horror movies. So we get Tom Savini gore, and it looks fantastic. The skinning, LG later on, the skin mask that Leatherface has now, it looks like 3-4 different people's faces stitched together, which was an interesting new look. It even has some beard hair on the chin. I liked having Caroline Williams as Stretch. She's gone on to do a lot more horror movies since and has kind of become like a scream queen. And I thought she did a really good job as Stretch. She, just like Sally, has to do a lot of screaming in the third act. Even LG is kind of a fun, quirky side character who's always spitting loogies out. It's kind of disgusting. And this poor guy in real life, I read, got axe murdered, which was shocking to read. But this guy was also an assistant cameraman or assistant director on the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I like to change the scenery in this movie. They don't just put it all in a house again or out in the field, in the woods or whatever. It's at a radio station, which I thought was a cool, fun setting. The lights there, just the way the radio station is lit, the cinematography just looks beautiful. And the underground amusement park that's been closed down, they go underground. They have like all these Christmas lights and chandeliers and all kinds of shit. They are setting up dead bodies everywhere, like family photos on the beach. It's crazy. But yeah, I like the sets in the movie. I just thought they were cool and imaginative.
Dog wheel hunt! Get that bitch, Leatherface! Get that bitch!
And I really appreciate the fact that this one went with a different tone. It decided to go away from the original's gritty, more disturbing, mostly serious tone and went in a more fun, bonkers direction, which I thought was just a great choice. Because you don't want to make the same movie again and again. And I also really like Tom Savini's take on Grandpa and how he looks. This is a better looking Grandpa, and funny enough, a younger looking Grandpa than the one in the original, who looked like he was dead. And they just dug him up, but he was still alive. In this one, he just looks like a really old, on the brink of death guy instead. And the makeup looks really good. They zoom in on it just to show it off. Looks really good. Another cool thing about this movie is that we get Dennis Hopper as this revenge-seeking lawman who is going chainsaw shopping and is going to fight man to man with Leatherface, chainsaw to chainsaw, and we get a chainsaw battle like something out of Motel Hell or Phantasm 2. This one is just as good, if not better, than those chainsaw battles. I just love the whole guy seeking revenge subplot going on here. I'm always a sucker for revenge movies, and so you're rooting for him, and you wish there was more of him in the movie. He kind of disappears in the second act for a long time, and then he comes back in the finale, chainsawing his way down there. I just wish there was more of him because I really like his character, and I just feel like they underutilized him a bit. But it's still cool to see Dennis Hopper in the movie, and I love that scene where he goes chainsaw shopping because that's just the most hilarious scene to me for some reason. As for my dislikes, I don't like the score in this movie for some reason. It just doesn't work for me. It's kind of annoying, repetitious. I don't like it. Just leave it there. I don't like it. Next up, the cook. They give him too much screen time in this one compared to part one. He gets way more and way more dialogue, and his acting is too hammy. It's worse than part one, and I just find him really annoying. He agitates the shit out of me. He repeats lines again and again. He'll say a line, and then he'll say it again twice in a row. You coon shit, I told you, and I told you. And that's his character. He just repeats shit again and again. I just want to slap him in the face and say, shut the fuck up. He talks way too much.
No! Shut up!
Because they spend so much time on the antagonist and the craziness and their repetitious dialogue, it starts to get exhausting by the third act. That you're just like, I'm done with this. Like, I've already experienced a whole hour of nonstop insanity. I can't take it anymore. Let's just get through this and wrap it up. So it just needed to be trimmed, or they just needed to spend more time with less crazy people. I'm also not a big fan of this Leatherface, how they have him just constantly keep screaming and yelling, just like the final girl. Like, he screams almost as much as her, and he's always doing that thing with the chainsaw, and I don't think it's funny. It's just also kind of annoying for some reason. I hate every time he does it, because he does it like 20 times in the movie with the chainsaw. I also wasn't crazy about the whole Bubba's in love with Stretch subplot going on here that really doesn't amount to much in the end, and the script does feel a bit rushed. When you're watching it, there's just some things that feel forced and don't make much sense. So final thoughts, if you can just ignore the original and go into this knowing that it's a completely tonal shift to a more silly, goofy, gory comedy, really, more than a horror film, I think you'll enjoy it. It's not for everyone, but it's fun to me, and I just wish that there would have been more Hopper and less Sawyers, and maybe trim a few minutes off of this thing. So when it comes to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I like this movie. Don't love it, so I'll give it 3.5 stars. Spoiler discussion. So, first, I'll go over some interesting facts I wrote down that I didn't talk about. Why not? So, Joe Bob Briggs has a deleted scene. There's a couple of deleted scenes in this one. They trimmed the movie down for pacing, and I still think it could have been trimmed down more for pacing. But one scene they took out was Joe Bob Briggs' scene where he gets killed at a movie theater, and he says, "This is awful." I'm not even sure who Joe Bob Briggs really is. I just know he has like some show. What does he do? Commentator, something like that? I don't know. I've never seen anything with him. Bill Moseley got this role because he made a parody version of the original movie, apparently, in college called like Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And also, Stretch and Lefty in the original script, they were related. She was his daughter, and they just took that out. Not sure why. But yeah, so there was a lot of things that got changed. This was a movie that was being like rewritten as they were shooting the movie, and that starts to show in some cases. When you're watching this movie, you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That feels forced. So when you hear that, it makes a lot of sense that this movie was just being thought of on the day. Like, fuck it, we'll do this now. There's a trapdoor conveniently there, and this happens. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. This whole movie doesn't make any sense. It's illogical as fuck. So yeah, opening is the crawl. We get the opening crawl just like part one. So That was nice to do again, and we learned that Sally from part one, who survived at the end, is now catatonic. And so we get Rick the Prick and this guy who was just a model they hired. This was his only movie. Uh, they have a car phone, so that shows you that this is the 80s, it's not the 70s no more. And so Rick the Prick, his laugh, fucking annoying. I can't stand him, so it's great to see him get. Actually, we don't see him get killed, but he's dead. He's got the glasses, like the hologram glasses, and he's just laughing like a hyena, just nonstop. And it's annoying as fuck. I hate that stuff. And they're playing chicken on the road, acting crazy, but then when the Sawyers pull in front of them like a hypocrite, he's like, "What, are you crazy? You pig fucker?" Like, you just did the same thing to someone not even 5 minutes ago in the movie, and now you're calling this guy crazy for, like, getting in front of you, cutting you off. Like, you're the crazy guy playing chicken. And so the whole, like, holding up the phone thing makes no sense. Is that a real thing? Like, Lefty, or not Lefty, Stretch, she works at the radio station, and these jackasses, these yuppies, they call in, and because they won't hang up their phone, the radio station can't receive calls from anyone else, and they can't just hang up their phone, and they're forced to like listen to these jackasses until they hang up. That sounds like a major flaw in their system. That's dumb. But it's a writing convenience because we need this phone call to keep going so that they can record it and give it to Lefty. So it's all, I think, a writing convenience. I don't think it's an actual thing. If it was a thing, that's a stupid thing to have ever existed. For a radio station, especially. So this bridge is the longest bridge in history of bridges. We see like an exterior shot, like we see a shot of the bridge, and we can see the end of it in the shot and on this side, you can see the other side. But then when they're driving down it, and this whole sequence is happening, they're driving full speed for like 3-4 minutes straight, and they're still on the bridge. How fucking long is this bridge? And also, why wouldn't they just stop the car? Wouldn't you? It makes no sense. But I love that Leatherface has Nubbins, aka the hitchhiker from part one. He's wearing the hitchhiker as like a costume, and somehow the bullet shoots Nubbins' face off of Leatherface instead of just going through that face and into Leatherface and killing him. And Tom Morga, who plays Michael Myers in Halloween 4, and Jason Voorhees, or fake Jason, or technically real Jason, in part 5. So he's played 3 icons, Tom Morga, but only in that scene. The rest of the movie is Bill Johnson and some other stunt actor. Then we get our first cool gore effect with the guy's head sawed diagonally in half, and his head just falls off, blood shooting out like an Adam Green movie, or, just awesome. That was a cool, like, establishing how gory this movie is going to be kind of kill. Like, this is what you can expect, this level of violence. So Lefty shows up to the crash site, and it makes no sense how this crash site is here unless I can just say that they moved the car over there, but why would they do that? But like when you see where they crashed, Lefty looks over and we see the bridge over there, but they crashed over here. Like, huh? That doesn't make sense, but whatever. So this guy says that the events of part one, that was over 14 years ago, he says. But the opening crawl said 13 years, and this movie did come out 12 years later, but the movie took place in 73, and this is 86, so that's 13 years. So I think the crawl was correct. This guy was not. Then we get a cameo from Tobe Hooper, who's at the hotel drinking Dr. Pepper with a cigar, throwing it. He was apparently always drinking Dr. Pepper on set. I don't understand why. Dr. Pepper is disgusting. We get one of our first instances in the movie where the writing doesn't make much sense. So Lefty puts out like an ad or something in the paper requesting help. Here's Stretch like, hey, I'm the one person in town who believes you, has evidence that can back up your claims about the Sawyers being here. I'm here to help you. And what does Lefty do? He goes, fuck off. Like, basically, buzz off. I don't need your help. And he looks like he's shit-faced, drunk, like, or that he got his ass kicked the night before. He just looks very disheveled almost in that scene. I feel like there's a scene missing before that scene to explain why he looks the way he does. But why is he pushing her off and not wanting her help, but funny enough, not even 5 minutes later in the movie, he's at the radio station like, hey girl, I need your help. I think probably the most ridiculous thing in this movie is actually when this girl who runs the chili contest calls Drayton kinda cute. This motherfucker is far from cute. Sorry, but he is not attractive. And seriously, that's a risky move for Drake or Drayton, whatever the fuck his name is, to be handing out human chili to everybody like he's Cartman in South Park. I made you eat your parents. I made you eat your parents. Reminded me of that episode. Like, he's feeding chili humans, like human chili or whatever, to people, and there's like teeth in it. Oh, that's just a peppercorn. Like, no, he would have gotten caught. They would have been like, this is human. There's a fucking fingernail in here. Like, that was a dumb move for him to be handing out human meat, or as he calls it, prime meat, to everybody. Just so ridiculous. And how it's funny how the chili and the trophies like pouring all over his shirt. He doesn't care. So then we get my favorite scene in the movie where Lefty goes chainsaw shopping, and this guy who works there was just some local. He's not an actor, I don't think. And he has some funny dialogue. If you really just listen to what he's saying, he gets the chainsaws, it lays down like $1,000, walks outside, starts sawing up the tree out there, and this guy in the back's like, oh, my aching banana.
Oh, my aching banana.
So for some reason, this radio station has a big, giant metal sliding door that locks on the inside for some reason instead of the outside. And why is that there? Just to be a nod to the original, I guess. Just like there's a poster of an armadillo on the wall and an armadillo on the desk, so a couple of nods there. But really, why is that door there? That would not exist in a radio station, I don't think. And according to that clock in there, it's always 6 o'clock. That thing is never moving. Another stupid detail I noticed on this watch, that clock never changes. But so, yeah, she plays the tape, which I couldn't believe she actually did. It didn't take much convincing to make her break FCC rules. And so, yeah, we get this whole plan established. Her and Lefty, they talk, and he's like, you're going to play the tape, you're going to draw them there, and then I'm going to come in and save the day. I'm assuming that's what he said to her, behind the scenes. But no, he does not show up for some fucking reason. Where was he? They get there, they attack her for like 15, 20 minutes. They have enough time for LG to get back from going out and getting food. He gets there, gets, presumably killed at first. You think he's dead. He gets captured, taken off, and then he's still not there. So where is he? What is he waiting on? Like, this was his whole plan. He should have been out there waiting already for them to arrive, and when they did, he should have attacked them while they were in the radio station. So it makes no sense why he's not there. And then another thing is, it's like he's not even the one following them. He's following Stretch follow the Sawyers. Like, the Sawyers leave, and then a couple minutes later, she leaves, and then he's following her, following them. This needed to be like restructured, rewritten to where he got there and then was fighting the Sawyers, and then LG came in and distracted him, and then they got LG, and then Stretch saw that they caught him, so now she has a reason to want to go with Lefty. Now she has like this reason, I need to go get my friend. But when she follows them in this movie, the way it's written here, she doesn't even know he's captured. She doesn't know that he's dead. She thinks that he's still out getting food. So she's just on her own, like, I'm determined to get this story. I'm going to lose my own fucking life, probably, just to get this story and stop these bad guys on my own somehow. Just so maybe I can be a reporter? Is that the motivation here? Like, it should have been what I said. They get LG, she finds that out right then and there, and then is trying to save LG with the help, like, she leaves together with Hopper together. But instead, he's following her. Like, how did he know? Was his plan all along that he was banking on the idea that she would somehow survive that encounter, and then she would also follow them, and then he could just follow her? Like, because he arrives at that place like 5 minutes after her. It doesn't make sense.
And maybe The music's
But anyways, the introduction to Chop Top, I love it. He's wearing a Sonny Bono wig, and we get an amazing jump scare that doesn't make sense either, because how did that chainsaw just start so quickly? But, you know, Leatherface just pops out of the darkness, chainsaw's already on and revving. Impossible to do that so quickly, but whatever. But yeah, and then he is like trying to use his chainsaw like it's his dick, like putting it up against her vagina, and then gets her wet. He's like hitting the ice bucket, and all the ice and water is hitting her, and she's like, "You're good." Like she's trying to pull like some Ginny from Friday the 13th 2, like child psychology on him, but not the same thing. But you know, she's like trying to get him on her side and not kill her by pretending like she is attracted to him, which was interesting that she immediately went there instead of doing what most people would do, is, you know, shit their pants and try to run away. So I guess because she called him good, "Oh, you're good," that's why he left her alone. He's like, "Oh, I guess I'm not going to kill you because you said I was good at chainsawing ice." He leaves, and then she pursues them, and for some reason forgot to check out that gun shop below, because the radio station is connected to the gun shop. And in this situation, you would think that she would want to like break into that gun shop and get a gun, and not just go chase these killers without a weapon. What is she thinking? We get this sequence where Lefty is chasing Stretch in his car for a long period of time, instead of just stopping his car right away, getting out and be like, "Hey, Stretch, it's me." But instead he keeps like chasing her with the car. It's like this big suspense sequence that's just silly as fuck. Doesn't make any sense. Like, just get out of the car and be like, "Hey, Stretch, it's me." You know, the guy who for some reason wasn't there at the station when I was supposed to be. And then she like falls down this hole that's there for what reason? Why is it there? Is that the only one? Is there multiple? How did it go off? Like, was it an accident? It was just like, no. It had to have been triggered by something, but it makes no sense. Like, and then he like grabs a skeleton arm and is trying to pull her up with the skeleton arm, and doesn't realize that it's a skeleton arm until she falls. Then he looks at it, he's like, "Oh shit, like you didn't see what it was when you were holding it?" But, and then like she falls down and she's like going down the slide. So yeah, they built that to throw bodies down there, but what's the point? They always take the bodies in the car through the tunnel, so that system doesn't make much sense. And then when Lefty gets in there, he starts like chainsawing the pillars before he kills the bad guys. Like, kill the bad guys and then start sawing all the pillars and bringing it down. Like, that is a dumb decision. Like, you're gonna probably like bring the place down on your head in the moment and kill yourself before you can even get to the bad guys. Then we get this whole wall of guts, and it just like starts conveniently bleeding at that point. Like, it's coming out of the wall because it's just overflowing, and it just starts like, you know, bleeding out the mouth of the painted Indian, and he sees it and he kicks the wall, and all these guts come pouring out. Like, this is over the top. This is crazy. I noticed there was weird hard cuts when the guts are coming out. It like hard cuts like 2-3 times to show more and more just keep coming out. But it was weird. It wasn't all one ongoing shot. It just kept cutting. Probably the most gross scene in the movie is when she has to wear LG's face, and just the skin work there. It's just disgusting. These effects are great, and LG is still alive somehow. Still spitting. He was spitting earlier when he was being hammered in the face, and now he's spitting without a face. And he cuts her loose, and he keeps calling her darling. It's like, "Oh, sorry, darling, falling apart on you, darling." And then finally drops dead. And she goes, "LG, I loved you." Is that like I loved you as a friend, or I loved you secretly, like I was in love with you, even though throughout the whole movie I kept acting like you were a joke, like I was disgusted by you because you keep spitting everywhere, making French fry houses. Like, there was no attraction to him that I saw. So when the place keeps like falling apart because of what Lefty's doing above, and somehow they can't hear him, when the place is falling apart, Drayton says, you know, "Fucking property taxes, they fuck up everything." Like, I seriously doubt this guy's paying property taxes for this place. So we find out Lefty is related to Franklin. Franklin is his brother. And we see Franklin's body in a wheelchair holding the flashlight that he actually dropped before he died. So Leatherface took the flashlight off the ground and put it back in Franklin's hand, and then for some reason they decided to take his body, still in the wheelchair, and take it with them to this place. That's just hilarious. It's so dumb. We find out that the Saw is family. You gotta choose between Saw and sex. SCEX. That's how he spells it, because he's a moron. I'm land. I love how Stretch dumps Leatherface. She's like, I just don't think this is gonna work out. And then we get the whole dinner scene once again, and then Grandpa gets wheeled in. He looks great for a guy who's 137 years old. And yeah, so we get this whole scene recreated once again, and then she escapes. After Lefty shows up, we get a cool chainsaw battle. Leatherface gets a chainsaw in his gut out the back, still running on the other side, which was a cool effect. And somehow this fucker's still alive in part 3. I don't think so. He's dead. And then, not to mention, a grenade goes off because Drake, what the fuck his name is, the cook. I'm sick of saying his name. The cook, he takes that old fuck you Charlie, pulls the pin and blows them all up because he was bleeding to death with that chainsaw wound up his ass, and blows them all up. Now we just got Stretch being chased by Chop Top, and again another nod to part 1. When she's running away, she keeps getting sliced in the back with the switchblade like Sally, and we get Grandma again. She's still very much dead, and she's in Texas heaven, or chainsaw heaven, I think that's what they called it. Chainsaw heaven. But when she takes the chainsaw from Grandma, Chop Top is like, you killed her! She was already fucking dead. There's no way she was still alive. Don't even tell me she was. And then he says the weirdest line that makes no fucking sense. He slits his own throat 3 times and doesn't die from it like anyone would. Especially in horror movies, like, they die instantly. Like, you get your throat slit, you die, you drop dead immediately. But he slits his throat 3 times, and then he says,
It's like death eating a cracker. Huh? Huh?
What the fuck does that mean? Is that a real expression? Is that a Texas thing? Is there someone from Texas watching this that can explain what that means? I have no idea, but I want to say it more in my life just to confuse people. You know, like, yeah, it's a lot like death eating a cracker, and then they just would probably look at you like you're insane. Oh, one funny shot I want to talk about real quick is the shot of Nubbins at the dinner table with this big-ass crazy straw that he's, like, drinking blood out of a soda bottle. That was a funny shot. Like, he's drinking blood out of this big-ass crazy straw, like one of those aliens and killer clowns from outer space. So then Stretch, she starts the chainsaw, and she guts Chop Top. He falls down, and then we get this awful recreation of the chainsaw dance in part 1. This just felt forced. Like, I get she's out of her mind at this point. You can really see it on her face. Before that, she's basically like, come and get me. Like, she's had it. But it was just really silly. Like, ooh, let's do it again, like part 1. But the way she does it, it's just like, it's so silly. I don't like it. They should have done something else. So anyways, those are my thoughts on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. What are your thoughts on this crazy-ass movie? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.